Some call me the sage from South Central. Others call me the czar of common sense. But you can call me
Top of the morning, Dan
and
and Amy
invited
coming to you
to join
live
me
from
tonight,
Signature
starting
Bank
at
in Edison
7,
Park,
right
kicking
here
off our
on
AM
AM
560 Signature Bank business tour this morning. Be making our way around to different businesses in the Chicago metropolitan area this spring. And President Trump has just arrived in Hanoi. And former Chicago Alderman Bob Fioretti has just arrived here with us in the bank.
We're here. We are.
What a comparison.
Right.
Bob is run for Cook County Board President. He's a candidate for mayor on the ballot today. Bob, thanks so much for joining us.
Good to be here.
My first question, because he is a musical idol of mine, is explain in detail your relationship with Buddy Guy. You got $500,000 from Buddy Guy, who's the greatest blues musician who ever lived right here in Chicago. And I'm a frequent patron of Legends, and I want to know the relationship.
Well, the next time you're coming in, say hi to me.
Will I get VIP treatment?
I
Will I get VIP treatment
door.
at Legends?
I may have to be at the door handling it.
I want to be behind the velvet rope at Legends. No,
Right.
it's a Buddy Guy. That's a kind of a cool, interesting relationship.
I knew him
apparently.
before I was elected. I had when I first won as alderman, I had my victory party there. We've talked a lot about the city, about where the direction of the city is going, what's wrong with the city, how to help small businesses, how to help the blues community, music community, artist community, and we agree 90% of what we talk about.
Yeah,
and he had a fundraiser for you the other day.
Yeah, we had
I'm sorry you weren't invited.
Yeah, I am
over
sorry.
400 people, 450 people actually showed up, and it was a great fundraiser. So, and he and Bobby Rush, not the congressman. I can tell that look on your face.
Sure.
What?
Sure.
Did I miss something?
Right.
And do you, like, he does blues guitar and you do the harp, or what, how does that work?
Well, I sort of faked it because my musical talents don't go that far.
All right, very good. Well, give us your closing argument why Bob Fioretti for mayor today.
Well, I think I distinguish myself from all the candidates. I've got the integrity. I've got the experience. I know this city. I'm surprised at what I hear. We hear more, basically, tax and spend of people in the city of Chicago. So coupling it with what we hear in Springfield, that becomes a recipe for disaster of the people of the city of Chicago and of our region. So I believe if we do it the right way, how we can make things move forward and what we need to do and growing our tax base is critical. And I've said that for years. And I brought 8,000 jobs to my ward when I was the alderman. I brought new businesses to my ward and employed people from the ward and kept people in the city, and that's what we need to do when I'm the mayor.
You know what I appreciate about you? You never took the Republican vote for granted. I mean, you had 135,000 Republicans voted for President Trump in 2016, and you recently were endorsed by Log Cabin Republicans. Log Cabin Republicans.
Honored about that too. Yes, I was very surprised, on the endorsement, and so because I do believe in inclusiveness. And that's what makes the city great. So, yeah.
So what is your plan to cut spending but increase revenue?
Well, I think there's a lot of ways that we can cut spending. One of them that I proposed was the grid system. And the grid system that we originally talked about would have saved the city $70 million. It's a way to pick up our garbage. It's a way to how we treat all of our areas, from tree trimming to you name it. In terms of what we see on the streets, rat control, the whole bit, would have saved about $70 million. But the way they did it only saved 20. So that's one of the ways.
But part of this goes to aldermanic privilege. And I know a lot of candidates talk about wanting to eliminate the feudal system and aldermanic privilege. But residents sort of like it, right? They can go to their feudal lord and get stuff done.
Well, supposedly. I bet you if you walk with...
Not me.
If you walk... Whoop. And
I got it.
hopefully we're still on.
Yes.
Yeah, everything's fine.
Good. If you had 50 aldermen walking down the street, I bet, quite frankly, you would see very few would notice the cave-in of a sewer, graffiti, lights out. It really takes, and now everything's 311. And you see how long, I try to see how long it takes for, in areas of the city, a repair work that goes past. And I wait before somebody calls 311. The aldermen don't do it. It's the residents that have to do it and to improve their own community. And then you got to see how long it takes from that call before something is repaired. Driving around this city, I hear everybody, all of the candidates are talking, well, it's all the streets on the south and west side that have potholes. Well, they ought to start going around the rest of the city.
Yeah. I mean, I was recently at 101st and Ashland, and those neighborhoods over there are beautiful. They're clean. Mm-hmm. And there's no stuff on they did street sweeping. We're on the north side. We haven't had a street sweeper. Right. I can't even remember the last time.
Right.
And it's piling up. And then there's a hole, that goes down about 2 feet that you call and doesn't get repaired.
Part of the reason I called for a real true grid system way back in 2010 was because, the 33rd Ward had 12 garbage trucks. My ward, the second ward, only had 3. And it took a half hour from the crew to be picking up to go to from when they leave the yards to pick up the crews to get, and then another 45 minutes to get to the first location on Mondays to pick up. That's a waste of time. So, we really have to reconfigure what we do. And government needs to be rethought all the way across the board here. And getting rid of aldermanic privilege is one way.
So big labor versus big finance, that's Preckwinkle versus Daley. Big labor wants a city income tax, wants a LaSalle Street tax. Big finance wants an increase in the state personal and corporate income tax, tax retirement income. Are you in either camp?
No. Everything you just said, I think, will further push out people. The transaction tax, what are we talking about? I don't know if any of them, but I did sit down with the whole board from the Board of Trade. I think it was probably at 09, 10, and they said they were all against it, and they could move with in a heartbeat. And, of course, now all the trades are done on your phone.
Right.
It doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
And, I was once in favor of progressive tax. I will tell you that. I've looked, though, at what's happening to Illinois, and we can't do that. People will just pick up and move. A lot of the businesses, I hear it. And again, I do not know who these candidates are talking to, whether it's the residents of this city, which they are not, or businesses, especially the small businesses. I've heard it over and over. They're going to move. And go down, and again, some of the other candidates, all the vacant locations of businesses are on the south and west side. I always say, come on with me down Clark Street.
Yeah,
Lincoln
Look
Street,
at Lincoln.
Devon,
Oh, my
even.
gosh. Lincoln Avenue is just shuttered.
I was on
business after business that's closed.
And, I think historically we all know where the Valentine's Day Massacre occurred, right up there on 2400 Clark.
Yeah.
You go up and down that street to Fullerton, and there's 7-10 businesses that are closed.
I only go up there to go to the oven grinder now.
Oh.
Yes. Or Gayhas.
Yeah.
I take my wife there,
right,
yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, that's good, too. We just talked to Kevin Bastuga from Signature Bank, and he's talking about the owner-operator businesses that this bank serves. And he said what their preeminent policy concern is what politicians, both at the state and the city level, are going to do about unfunded pension liabilities, because they see the gathering storm and they see themselves as the ones that are going to take the hit. So what about that? And generally speaking, and what specifically about the prospect of bankruptcy? I know that's the B word, but Detroit did it and has come out better for it. Bankruptcy can reorganize and provide the path for rebirth, can it?
The answer in the state of Illinois is no. It can't be done.
But city?
No, Illinois cannot. Illinois will not permit a city, a municipality, to do that. Now, under the, and I think it was for the last 2 years, I've been meeting monthly with pension experts, people that have dealt with all the bankruptcies across this country, all 16 of them, the counties, the municipalities, and on the discussions that we can have. Maybe we can't go into bankruptcy, but we can go into a de facto bankruptcy and not pay the bills. Not even a receivership, because under the bankruptcy, the federal bankruptcy code, I think there's 3 requirements. One, an enabling statute. We don't have that, and it will never be passed in Springfield. Secondly, you have to show that you are really insolvent. Now,
that's easy.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't think
no,
that
it's
should be
not.
hard.
No, it's not, because we have so much other revenue. And don't forget, the Supreme Court here said, oh, yeah, you know what you can do? Raise taxes. Well, that's a death knell further. And then third, you have to begin negotiating with your creditors in good faith. Well, given the politicians that are on those boards, that's never going to happen. So, the fact that and it's been thrown around on the bankruptcy issue by a couple of the candidates, and it just won't happen here. We don't meet any of the requirements.
Well, but I mean, the flip side is you wait for one of the pension funds, most notably police and then fire, to capsize. And that's not going to be a good situation either.
Right. No. And I agree with you. And so that's the problem that we're faced with. But the other problem is we have these TIFs that are drawing off so much money on the top. Don't forget, two of the candidates that are running here now were advocates. They don't want to admit it, but 10 years of taking pension holidays, which created part of the problem. The downturns, giving out money to the Daley family. What did they lose? $53 million. They took $9 million in commissions, and then he gives his uncle a $25,000 contribution recently. There's no control over it. That's the real problem. And who's getting the shaft? The taxpayers, the residents of this city. And I mean the residents, because most of our real estate property taxes go into other means and not for where they should be directed to.
What's the most, in your own opinion, the most transformative idea you have as part of your platform, the idea that would have the greatest amount of impact immediately?
Well, I think, first of all, we, again, as I said, we need to bring back in business and redevelop our neighborhoods. Under the Tax Act that was passed, and I started talking about it, and now all of a sudden we've got 4 or 5 candidates talking about it, are the economic opportunity zones, the 133 of them. That is developer monies that will come into our neighborhoods. And the developers, not like a TIF money, the opposite of TIF, which is everybody who's a resident of the city of Chicago pays into the TIFs. But in these economic opportunity zones, these tax incentives that are provided for give federal incentives, federal tax cuts over a long period of time. And they provide affordability, development without displacement, medical centers, commercial corridors, and if they overlap a TIF, it'll be phenomenal. Again, a lot of the candidates have never looked at a TIF map, and they go all the way around the south side and west side, and they could be utilized to economic development.
On the personnel side, you have to do something with city personnel, right? You got, number one, you have 35,000 city employees, you have 47,000 retirees. That doesn't work. But number two, you've talked in your commercials about adding more police officers. Why does Chicago need more than 12,000 police officers when L.A. has 9? And L.A. is a bigger city, it's more spread out.
Well, and it's safer.
And it's safer.
Well, it is spread out, it is safer, but there's a lot more other issues that attract here in Chicago. We are the global center for human trafficking. We are third in human trafficking. Human trafficking undermines our police enforcement. 25,000 acts of prostitution a day here in this city.
And that's before Bob Kraft comes to town.
Exactly. I was just going to say.
Too soon, man.
Yes. And you look at it, even at the Super Bowl, they arrested a whole series of sex traffickers. Think about what's happening here. It undermines our law enforcement. We are the amount of illegal guns that come in, and we don't enforce the laws that are on the books. At the same time, the drug trade is unbelievable in our neighborhoods, and I had to crack down some heroin ones because when I was elected, I from Bronzeville to South Loop, West Loop, all the way out to East Garfield Park, and I saw areas that one time my streets and sand guy were going down picking up the garbage. They got to a location to cross. All of a sudden there's a free open air drug market. It was a free day. They pass out drugs.
Well, they said,
and they couldn't get by, so they started, and hundreds of people gather at these things. You see them sometimes.
It's like a scene from The Wire or something.
It is, and they started backing up. Well, at the other corner, another gang was doing it. They were stuck for an hour and a half. They didn't tell me until the end of the day. I would have called the commander immediately, but they were stuck there. They couldn't move because of what was happening. Our drug trade on some of our communities, and you know what? They come in from the suburbs. You see the cars. You see who's driving them. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
He is Bob Fioretti. He is on the ballot today for mayor of Chicago. He'll probably be coming to a polling place in a neighborhood near you throughout the day between now and 7 o'clock when polls close. Bob, thanks for joining us, and good luck
today.
Good to
be here. Thank you. And get ready for Fioretti and Punch 35.
Get ready for Fioretti. That
it
basically rhymes.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, that's good. All right, I like that.
Good.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Buddy Guy must have given you that one.
Right.